In the song where it says, the mind tells us what it is and the heart tells us why. And there's a connection from the heart to the mind and the mind to the heart. And in fact, we're learning that the heart actually has its own brain. And so when you mix those two, it's hard for me to separate them, but to mix the two, and when there's a thought and the feeling that combine, it sends out a powerful message to the universe and things begin to happen. So the heart and the mind go together. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity, when we feel into the heart. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity, when we feel into the heart. Now is the time for the changes to be made, right from wherever we are. What we hold in mind comes about in kind, when we feel into the sacred heart. Have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity, when we feel into the heart. The heart knows the way, it's the truth and the light. It's our guiding star deep within. The mind tells us what, the heart gives us why. No better time than now to begin to have a little empathy, have a little sympathy, feel into your heart. That's where our divinity reaches through infinity, when we feel into the heart. When we feel into the heart, when we feel into the sacred heart. Hi, my name is Elaine Silver, also known as Fairy Elaine Silver and Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. And you can call me Elaine, you can call me Fairy, you can call me Fairy Elaine, you can call me Reverend Fairy. Sometimes I tell people they can call me Your Majesty, but it's just a joke. And so I am here to talk about Humanity Day. But before that, I wanted to give you a little bit of information. I live in Sarasota, Florida in the States. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I've always been interested in music, and I have been a full-time traveling, recording artist since 1979. So it's been a really long time, and I still love it. And I was a classical voice major in college, and I was a jazz vocal performance major in college. And then I never finished because I started getting too many gigs. And so here I am. And I moved to Sarasota in 2000. And at that point, I had been coming to Florida in the wintertime. Each winter, it seemed to get longer and longer. Then I finally bought a house down here and moved to it in 2000. And I had a lot of connections with different, like Unity and Science of Mind and even Unitarian churches and progressive centers. And so my career that I had in New Jersey, I worked with a lot of children. I was known as the folk music queen in the 80s and 90s. When I got down here, they didn't really know who I was, but I had connections in the churches. So my career has evolved into a musical ministry, and I just love it so much. I get to fill in for ministers 3 or 4 times a month, typically. And I love creating programs. My newest one is called I Am Worthy. I have one called Spiritual Economics through song. I have lots of them, many. And so I found the people from iamhumanity.net through some of my friends who are and were involved in landmark education. And I had done that work back in the mid 70s, and was really, really wonderful for me to understand things at a very young age, like we create our own reality. I was given the distinction between wants and needs, and also the idea that life is a mirror and what we see is a reflection of what's in here. And I really took that to heart. And then in the early 90s, right when the fairies came into my life, by the way, is when I found the science of mind, New Thought philosophy. And I've been studying that since the early 90s. And it took me 10 years to complete Science of Mind practitioner program, but I never got my license then because it didn't matter to me. I just love the material so much, and I use it in my songwriting and my programs. But then we moved over to West Palm Beach for about 4 years for my husband's job, and he retired in 2018 as an engineer working with NASA, working on the rockets. And it was really a divine appointment because when I got over there, I found a center and I started taking classes in the science of mind. And I actually got my license after like 25 years in the program, in the teaching. It's really a wonderful credential. That's my credential. You know, I have ordinations and ministries and this and that, but the science of mind that's where it comes from. Everything needs to fit into that context or else I don't go there. I am a divinity priestess through the Temple of Isis in California, and I have a couple other ministries so I could marry people before I became a Science of Mind licensed practitioner. And so that brings us to now and back to Sarasota. We moved back in 2018. There was a new center that started here, and it's called Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. It's my community. I love us. You know, we have the best community. And so I found out about Humanity Day through Jane Graham Boucher, and she introduced me to the iamhumanity.net group. So I'm going to tell you about Humanity Day. It happens on the third Saturday of October, and this will be its fourth year. And the date this year is Saturday, October 18th, 2025. It is a 6-hour global virtual event, and it's designed to uplift and connect us as humanity. And most importantly, bringing attention to this most wonderful conversation that we are humanity. I am humanity. We are humanity. This empowers the upliftment of humanity, and it will continue to do so for generations to come and come and come. So at the 6-hour virtual event, people can watch it all over the world. And there will be live celebrations as well. We're having a watch party in Sarasota, and people are encouraged to come and stay for the entire event or pop in for as long as they would like. And like Earth Day, that began as an idea back in 1970 on April 22nd, I remember that day. The word got out, and the Environmental Protection Agency in the States was formed just 8 months later in December of 1970. And so that's what we're seeing for Humanity Day, for this to become like Earth Day. So when a critical number of people are in alignment, things get accomplished. Kind of like the 100th monkey syndrome, if you know what that is. If you don't, look it up. And just as we are all part of the Earth, each person on the planet is part of humanity. And if we're talking universally, in truth, there is only one of us, expressing as individualizing extensions of source energy. The hours on Saturday, October 18th, where there's going to be 2 viewings, and it's from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific U.S. time, and from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. There are 6 unique sessions with inspiring speakers and keynotes from leaders and change makers. I like that, change makers. There will be art, music, poetry, dance, and more. And as there will be stories that move us and experiences of resilience, hope, and innovation. So I'll tell you what the 6 sessions are. First session, We Are Humanity, Flourishing in the Dance of Life. 2, Global Participation, Dancing Around the Globe Together. 3, Earth, Our Flourishing Home. 4, A Call to Action, Walk, Run, or Fly. 5, Renewing Spirit, the Freedom to Dance. And 6, Dreams We Dare to Dream, the Bigger Game. And to register for Humanity Day, go to www.imhumanity.net. There's lots of information on the website too. So we look forward to spreading the news of I Am Humanity and We Are Humanity and co-creating this Humanity Day on the 3rd Saturday of October. And so I'm very grateful to Michael for allowing me to come on and share about Humanity Day and about myself. Maybe we'll meet someday. You can look me up on elainesilver.com. And I thank you. I bless you. Namaste.